Well, our guest speaker is not unfamiliar with this group, and she wears many hats. She is the acting lieutenant governor for our district. She is the secretary of the Crawfordsville Club. She's the chairman of the membership of the Crawfordsville Club, and if I enumerated all the things she's done in Kiwanis, there wouldn't be time for her program. I'm not going to do it. So today, she's going to speak to us about Kiwanis Youth Protection Guidelines. I didn't say her name, did I?
No.
Can anybody? Oh, okay. It's
Char.
Char Lingen-Dimizio. Well, I got close.
Thank you. First of all, I would very much like to thank you all for stepping up on a short notice to entertain Governor Dixon on August 3rd for his annual governor's visit. Then I also want to tell you how appreciative the district is that Taka has stepped up to become lieutenant governor. I know he will be great at that position. If he ever gets less busy, at someday with his talent and his love of Kiwanis, I really could see him as an international president.
Well.
Really, really, really could. The first step would be after lieutenant governor when he has time to run for district governor. And then if he wins that position, then the next thing is to run for an international trustee.
Yep.
And once you've been an international trustee, you can put your hat in to run for president of the Kiwanis International. So thank you, and please give Taka all the support. I'm going to make sure all the clubs that know how qualified he is and give him great push so he has a very successful year. Now it's on to youth protection guidelines. Facts. How many Kiwanians interact with members of youth? Excuse me. How many Kiwanians interact with more than how many members of Kiwanis youth programs?
Huge.
600,000.
Huge.
That's high. Want to cut that in half? It's 300,000. How many cases of abuse and neglect involving how many children are reported in the U.S. each year? There's 3 million cases of abuse and neglect involving almost more than 5.5 million children. There are 3 types of abuse that we will learn about in this training. Can you remember what they are?
Physical.
That's one.
Sexual.
That's the second. No, it's emotional. That's mental. Yeah. Troubling. What does troubling behavior include?
These are tough to remember.
Troubling behavior includes all types of abuse. And the internal voice should always say, if something's not right about this, say something. Who needs to be educated about youth protection guidelines?
Everyone.
That's right. A chaperone of youth must be how many years of age?
20?
21.
21.
If you are chosen as a Kiwanis club advisor to one of our sponsored SPLs, I need to have a clear criminal history background check through any provider. Is that true or false?
True.
No, that is false. We have to have our background checks through Kiwanis International, the firm that they have, and that's what we got hung up on. It's a $25 charge every 2 years, and the reason it has to be done through Kiwanis International Safeguard Program is because that's what the insurance company that protects you if something goes wrong, that's what they require. So throughout Kiwanis International, since so many have had criminal background checks for jobs that they have or other organizations they belong to, it's been suggested that the clubs pay the $25 fee for them so they don't have to pay for something that they already have just because Kiwanis requires it. So that would be a Kiwanis administrative expense for those individuals. True or false? Any adult may give a youth over-the-counter medication at a Kiwanis event.
False.
That's right, it's false. You can only give over-the-counter medication with written permission from the parent or the legal guardian. When is it appropriate to use alcohol or tobacco at an event conducted primarily for youth or organized youth members?
Never.
That's right. What is the ratio of adults to youth for males and for females at any overnight event?
What's the age?
Underage, like, on high school and on down.
1 to 10?
Yes, that's right. One adult advisor for each 10 or less children, and one male advisor for 10 or under males. When you witness troubling behavior at a Kiwanis event, who do you report it to? Gail?
Police.
If the emergency, you report it to the police. First, you would report it to the person who is in charge of the event. Documents that have personal information about youth participants should be kept for a minimum of how many years? That's right, and longer if the state of Indiana would require that. True or false, an online friendship with a youth, for example, Facebook friendship or other formal connections, should be initiated by a youth by a social media platform's formal request process.
True.
Well, I'm going to start there. That happens to be the last question on the quiz, and that's one section we didn't get to. So maybe after we see this part, we'll know the answer. And where did I go with this? Sorry, too many papers to go through here. Here we are. I knew I had it right where it was supposed to be, but I couldn't find it. Imagine that. Youth Protection Guidelines, first approved by the Kiwanis International Board of Directors in January 2007. Since then, updates have been made to ensure Kiwanians adhere to the best practices when working with youth. The guidelines protect both our youth and adult members and outline expectations for adults working with people under the age of 18. And that's still not the right thing because those are the youth protection guidelines. I am so sorry, I'm wasting my time. I can't, if the sheet is here, and I know what this is, and it says right up there, adults should not initiate friendships or connections. And if a student or a Key Club member or something wants to contact you on social media, it should be kept to a very minimum. Don't ever like or comment on it because that can be public information. All interactions on Facebook or Instagram or any of Snapchat, all that is available to the whole world to see. It is best to, if you have someone that you are working with through Key Club or Builders Club or at any events that you see on a regular basis, and that child or young adult becomes too close and starts discussing behavioral issues, that child should be referred to a school counselor to deal with it.
Good.
Do not ever, attempt, you want to be friendly and you want it to do well, but it is not your responsibility if you're noticing that something's wrong or that they're following you on Facebook and it's a warning sign that something else might be going on. And after I get through the rest of this stuff, I'll probably find the right page and we'll go through it. So let's go back to the beginning. We've discussed that you have to have this education annually. Now, what you can do, the PowerPoint is available through Kiwanis. Your youth protection guidelines sheet that I didn't make copies for anybody, you just go to kiwanis.org. It's a whole new website, they just updated it. And you go to the page that has a bunch of boxes and says training. And when you get to training, you just go up to the top of the page. There's no box to write in, but you can go to Youth Protection Guidelines and hit enter. And then all this material is there, as well as the sheet of everything that everybody should know. So if you want to make sure people who are not here know this information, they can go through that and print the information out to themselves and read through it so they are aware of what their responsibilities are as a Kiwanian in their relationship to the youth they serve. Under the youth protection guidelines, a chaperone must be a Kiwanis member, faculty member, parent, legal guardian, or a person who is in the place of a parent. Must be 21 years of age or older, approved by the school or agency, registered with the school or agency to accompany youth at a specific event. Possible chaperones include Kiwanis members, faculty advisors, parents, teachers, staff of community organizations, and other volunteers. Are there any questions about that?
No.
The criminal history background checks. Does anybody have any questions about that, since we went through that at great length last year and I just reiterated it early? That it has to be done through Kiwanis International because of Kiwanis International's insurance protection, which really protects you. And then last year, I know there were some questions that you never received any notification if you came past or not. If somebody new takes one, the report that the person has passed the security check is sent to the secretary, and the secretary then records it on the monthly report so that it shows up. So if someone new and has any question about it, you need to talk to your secretary to see.
Actually, that's an automatic thing that happens.
Yeah. This is one we just discussed, overnight stays. Overnight stays, adequate adult chaperoning is required. One adult for each 10 or part of 10 youth males, one adult female for each 10 or part 10 youth females. If there are 15 youth girls and 8 youth boys, how many chaperones would you need?
3.
That's right. If there are 11 young girls and 11 youth boys, how many chaperones would you need?
4.
That's right. 2 youth girls and 5 youth boys.
2.
That's right. Adults and children should sleep in separate rooms. Potential exceptions, a parent sharing a sleeping room with his or her own child. Sleeping quarters with multiple beds, such as a bunkhouse or camp cabin. In this case, adults may share the sleeping quarters with the youth members of the same group if 2 or more adults are present. Any questions about that? The transportation guidelines are the rule of 3. There should, for your protection, if possible, you should be going on a school bus, a van that's connected with the activity, and if you have to take someone in your own car, it is preferred that you have 2 adults with one or 2 children, because if anything is reported by a child, then you have another adult witness to say, no, that was the figment of their imagination, that never happened. And all local law and school policies go ahead of the Kiwanis policies if they are stricter. For medications, a youth must have written permission from the parent or guardian to possess either non-prescription or prescription medication at an event. An adult may not give youth medication. This includes over-the-counter medication such as aspirin. If a youth anticipates needing over-the-counter medication, he or she must bring it with them, along with the parent or guardian's written permission. There's a sample form for that permission slip at kiwanis.org/youth protection. While attending any Kiwanis event that is produced primarily by or for the benefit of youth, adults are expected to refrain from using or being under the influence of alcoholic beverages, tobacco, marijuana products, even if prescribed for medicinal use. In addition, any use and or possession of illegal drugs or improper illegal use of legal drugs is prohibited. Troubling behavior, you must report it to the appropriate personnel at the event and to emergency services personnel if appropriate. If you learn troubling behavior after an event has occurred, you must report it. Troubling behavior includes all forms of child abuse, behavior not in accordance with the youth protection guidelines, illegal behavior of a youth or adult, something that causes your internal voice to say, something's not right about this. If you observe troubling behavior at an event, you must report it immediately to the appropriate person at the event. The appropriate person is the person in charge of the specific event or a person in a position of authority at the site or school. Troubling behavior, these are the types of events where it might be noticed. A service leadership meeting, Key Club District, I'm getting tongue-tied, Key Club District Convention, off-site service project, every event function attended by a Kiwanis club and a service leadership club, overnight event sponsored by Kiwanis International. And we discussed about any permission slips, medical authorizations and all that stuff that you receive if you're having such an event where you're taking a group overnight. You need to keep that information for 3 years and keep it confidential, and when destroying it, shed it to keep its confidentiality. There are also things to help you with troubling behavior. If you notice a child that's not acting correctly, that you are suspicious that they maybe are being abused at home, you can always go to the National Child Abuse Hotline. Is a great resource, and they will give you help as to where you should report your suspicions, since we're not trained in this field like school educators are. And when, as we stated before, when our Kiwanis policies are lower than what the school policies are, or the policies of whatever organization you're working with, you always apply the highest applicable standard. And then we had a question last year about Circle K at Purdue, because they're considered adults at 18, and some are 18 and some are not, but I checked that out. I think I sent you an email back, Gail. The consensus was that Kiwanis International, even though our standards say 18 and under, that we should apply the standards that Purdue University requires, because they are the ones that are responsible for Circle K. So you go, if just follow what their rules are, as far as if you would accompany them to the Circle K convention or have a joint event here. They're considered adults by Purdue because they're 18 years of age, so go along with that. Does anybody have any questions? Have I covered everything for you, even though I fumbled through my sheets? You have to excuse me. I fell twice within 6 weeks and injured the same part of my eye, landing here and breaking my glasses. Both times. It is now 5 months, and then in April, since it wasn't healing, they discovered I had a blowout fracture and a facial fracture here that was not diagnosed. And it's over 5 months now, and I'm still having swelling in my right eye that is affecting my vision. So when I'm fumbling through things and when I'm nervous, I'm not seeing well, so I apologize. So I'm happy to do this for you, and if you want me to come again sometime, I'll be happy to do that. But you can do it yourself if someone willing to do it, because all the tools for presenting this program are on the Kiwanis webpage. There's only one webpage now. There's no longer Kiwanis One. It's all put into one together. So that's less searching from one place to the other. But I'm having a little bit of difficulty, because when you get to the page where you want to look up something, I'm looking for a little line where I can write in and search for what I want. You just go to the top of the page and type it in, and then it comes up. There's no line. So that confused me at first, which is my standard state confusion. Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure to come here.